So let me finish with a couple of reflections. I think over the past 9 years, we've seen a dominance of conceptual and case study type papers. One of the things, we don't find very many Americans here. There's a steady, small stream of American papers, and one of the things we're often told is the Americans are more positivist and more into statistics and analysis, and we Europeans are fluffy and cuddly and warm and type of ethnography and participant observation and these kind of methods. Actually, there's very little difference. If you look at the American papers and the methodologies and the European ones, they both exhibit the same pattern. Now, there's a possible explanation for that, that Americans who like doing this kind of research come to Europe, where they find it easier to get it accepted than they might in an American conference. But that divide certainly didn't show up, although it's quite a small sample. As we've seen, there's no clear trend in topics. There's nothing that's started to dominate discussion, certainly in this conference. There is a dreadful lack of theoretical development, and this is a problem in the field in general, which I want to talk about very briefly on the next slide. There's a gradual shift, I think, towards harder numbers and the kind of analysis, just listening to Jessica Clancy and Jane, doing an analysis of the data. That kind of data mining paper is starting to become more common as we gather more data and different ways of doing it. So I've heard 2 fairly hard papers of that type this morning. In general, there's no sign of slackening in research output. In fact, I didn't actually check this, but there's at least 7 journals which are dedicated to e-government or e-governance at the moment, and there's quite a lot of other journals, of course, who produce regular sections. And at least 2 new journals have appeared in the last 18 months. So in as much as journals are an indication that the market is growing, the market is definitely growing for this. And indeed, the numbers in this conference have long-term tended to increase. There's currently several dedicated conferences, many tracks. I should have said possibly just in the introduction, ECEG was the first dedicated European conference to e-government. It wasn't the first conference in e-government. The first general honour belongs to India, I think, in about 1998, followed by the digital conference in the United States in 1999. The first e-government conference stream goes back to 1986 and to the European Group of Public Administration EGPA conference, which will be 25 years old next year. But ECG does have the distinction of being the first dedicated European conference on e-government. Now there are lots. There's certainly at least 4 or 5 dedicated ones in Europe alone. And if you want to get your paper published, you certainly have, between journals and conferences in any given year, probably at least 20 or 30 possible outlets. So when you get that rejection, just bang it on to the next one, and sooner or later, you'll find an editor who is desperate. We've had a proliferation of prefixes, E, T, I, D, N for mobile. O is one I added for over-government in Turkey last year, developing that theme in other papers. And Tau, of course, which was a completely new one to me, that Tim Duggan introduced yesterday, so I should have put that on the slide. So there's a lot of these things coming up, and particularly this emergence recently, it has been transformational, or T-government and e-governance, both of which are terms which are widely abused, and transformational government in particular is a term that I hate. I thought it was very perceptive of Josephine Bailey when she commented on her Wikipedia definition of e-governance as transformational governments, that surely we can transform without computers, and of course we can. So I think e-governance is just a rebranding exercise, which of course the IT industry is very good at. So let me conclude with I think a few reflections, and these are personal reflections. I would like to see e-government going forward to get away from motherhoods. I said, I was talking, sort of exchanged briefly with, I think, Tom this morning by note, saying, if I hear, I wish I had 10 euros for every time I heard somebody at one of these conferences say, we are moving towards participative, interactive, citizen engagement, blah, blah, transformative government. Can we get away from this dosh and actually get down to real hard bedrock? That's one thing. Secondly, I think one of the features that I noticed in this, and indeed in HICS as well, and in eGov, when I've been there, is we tend to approach e-government very much from an IS person's perspective, information systems person coming to government. And there's very little engagement with the world of public administration. I suspect that's what makes EGPA a little bit different. That there's a whole massive literature and theories, etc., in public administration that never crop up in these papers at all. Reeves will be very familiar with this, as indeed some of the other Limerick people from the, if there's anybody else here from the public administration school in Limerick. This is something that e-government doesn't seem to exist, or people are unaware of it. So I would like to ask, particularly the academics rather than the practitioners, to engage more with e-government. The third thing I think that I would think is important going forward is that we get some precision. Again, I'm speaking more to the academics, my fellow academics, than the practitioners. Some precision into language. We're just appalling. Words like transformation and governance get thrown around like confetti at a wedding. And there's just no consensus on what these mean, and this just tends to lead to an awful lot of confusion. For example, if you go to India, the word e-government hardly exists. People talk about e-governance, which to my mind is a totally different thing. And we just need to get, I think we need to get that sorted out. And finally, and perhaps the thing that is just a generic problem within the discipline or within the field, is we're really very short on theory. We've got this 5-stage model of Lane and Lee and the various variations, you know, the sort of the bulletin board stage and the sort of one-way transaction, two-way transaction, and then there's some mythical nirvana of transformational government that's at the end, but it's never fully defined, you know. That we need, I think, to start thinking, and maybe looking at the public administration literature might be a good place to start, because there's plenty of good theory there that could possibly be adopted. So, as somebody who defines now their field of research of e-government, I have to say that looking at this, it was great fun, very hard on the aging eyeballs, as I said, but very encouraging. It's a great field to be in. I don't think we're going to run out of things to say anytime shortly. I hope you found this interesting. I certainly did. And if I'm feeling really brave, I might